Nityanandam. Alrighty, so I wanted to share with you all a click that I had the other day when I was speaking to a dear friend of mine who's here currently in Bengaluru Adinam doing a special project for Inner Awakening graduates. So basically this friend of mine was sharing with me that she was walking through this Adinam one day and one of her friends casually asked her whether or not she was eating meat in her like life back home. Kind of an off topic question, took her off guard, but she answered honestly, and she said that yes, she was eating meat here and there. And then the person that had asked the question said, "Why are you doing this? You know, you made a commitment to Swamiji. It's not good for you." Whatever responses she gave, it ended up triggering in my friend a very strong emotional response. So she was sharing this with me. She was sharing how she didn't understand why she spoke to her that way, and she didn't like it, and who was she to speak to her that way, and it ruffled her feathers, and all of this I was listening to, right? I was listening to this, and while I was giving her my intense listening, I could see in this situation how she was triggered emotionally. I could understand that, okay, perhaps the way, and I know the personalities, I know these two strong personalities that have had this conversation as well. So I could clearly see how this one person asking this question would have triggered her. And I know that the way in which she would have spoken and maybe asked these questions and then responded, how the tone of voice or whatever wording was used might have been misperceived as coming across the wrong way. All of these things I could observe and I could see. And then I could also see how the person asking the question, no matter how rough or raw they might have been in asking this, I could see that there was no ill intent. So the whole purpose of asking the question, I could see, wasn't them being nosy, it wasn't them trying to be rude or condescending or trying to put them down in any way. It was literally, they were asking this question simply to help raise this person to their authenticity. So they've made a commitment of their own accord that they would live a particular lifestyle, and this particular lifestyle we know is, like for myself, I know it's helped me be the healthiest that I have to date, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So I know that this vegetarian lifestyle, especially the sattvic lifestyle, is the best for me. I have no doubt. So I could see how this person asking the question wasn't trying to hurt her in any way. That intention wasn't there. It was simply she was trying to show her that this inauthenticity is there, and to try and address it and raise herself there. And then I was thinking to myself, wow, why is it that we get so emotional, right? Why is it that situations in life trigger such emotional responses to us? And while I was contemplating this, it then triggered a memory in me of a few days even prior to this, where I was in Swamiji's courtyard, and we had a meeting. Everyone was there, and Swamiji was asking whoever wants to be lead for any particular project to stand up. And I hesitated in standing up for my own reasons, whatever was there. And then my name ended up being called up anyway, simply because I had been jumping up and down for wanting to be a lead and wanting to take up a project. And this was something I knew I wanted to do eventually, but for whatever reason I just wasn't standing up then and there. And so my name was called out, and then I did end up standing up, and then I put my name forward for a project which I knew I wasn't technically equipped to take on, but I was willing to take it up anyhow, knowing that the enthusiasm and the drive that I have and the passion that I have for this project is enough to propel me forward. And with a bit of training and dedication, I know I can make it happen. So I was ready to completely throw myself into this project, and Swamiji also gave his blessings. And then soon after, we could see that there would be a clash with my current responsibilities that I have here in the Ardinam, and then taking up this project. There would be kind of a clash, and it would mean that there's a gap in this responsibility that I'm taking up now. So then it was just rejected. It was set aside, which I was absolutely okay with. But then what happened is Swamiji said, he didn't say it to me directly, he said it to one of his Swamis that was standing next to him. He said it about me, so he didn't say it to me, but I could hear him obviously. He said that anyway, she's not able to handle my ferociousness right now. The way that I will respond to certain things, she won't have the capacity to handle that. And hearing that in itself, it triggered something inside of me. So it wasn't powerlessness. I can't say that it was pain. It brought something up where I was thinking, wow, okay, Swamiji, there's nothing casual about Swamiji at all. He never says anything casually. If he's saying something like that, especially, it means that there's something inside of me, in my inner space, that I really need to attend to and raise myself in some way. So I was contemplating on, okay, fine, I'm not able or capable right now of handling his ferociousness, but what does that actually mean? Right? This kind of a question mark was left there. So only after my friend was sharing this, I had a click where, looking back in my life, right, I was just thinking, see, this perceived ferociousness of life, my perception of ferociousness, in any given time, in any moment, life is doing something in an impactful way, right? It's doing something which I can't escape from, and ultimately it means, usually it means a sudden jarring transformation as a result of this event. These events, which are like impactful or jarring or whatever, they tend to bring up, if we're not prepared to, not even prepared, but if we're not able to understand what it is that life is doing for us in that particular point in time, it can cause a lot of resistance and it can cause a lot of emotional pain. The way the mind will start judging that situation of, why is life doing this to me? See, whether it's the loss of a job, the loss of a loved one, like I said, it'll usually be some kind of a situation which leaves a punch in us. If we're not able to understand that everything life does is always auspicious, and it is always doing whatever it's doing for our ultimate betterment, for our ultimate transformation. If we don't understand this, if we think that life is messing with us, or, you know, things were going so well for me, why did this have to happen right now? Why is life doing this to me? Why is life so unkind? All of these kinds of judgments that we can have, usually, like I said, it'll be something that we're not able to understand. It's not something that we're able to comprehend, and it might be something unexpected. If we have this kind of a resistance, it will always be painful. But if we have the right context, and if we have the right understanding for why life is doing something, or why life is trying to show us something, then it will always be a beautiful thing, right? So if my friend was able to understand that, rather than getting angry with this person asking her this question, rather than saying, oh, she has no business asking me this question, who is she to speak to me in that way? If she's able to understand the context of why her friend was asking her this in the first place, it's obviously not to hurt her. It wasn't to make her feel bad. It was simply to show her that there's a part in her life where she's being inauthentic and she needs to raise herself. In the same way, if Swamiji is only life, right? He is super consciousness. He's just super conscious energy being communicating through us in human form. So that super conscious energy, life itself, is trying to show me in that moment that, or literally like verbally telling me, I am not able to handle its hard knocks because of the way I perceive them. It was such a big click, actually. It gave me such tremendous clarity on where I've been stuck in my life, and rather than being stuck, I had an ability but chose not to flow with life instead. So there's a beautiful satsang which Swamiji shared in May 2015 in Varanasi, which is where I did my very first inner awakening. And in that satsang, I remember it was called, I think it's Let Life Sculpt You from Death to Divine. And basically Swamiji gives this analogy, and you know, it's so funny, I forgot about this satsang. He gives an analogy of a boulder, that we are these, just these, like this raw material of a rock. And as we flow with life, as we roll along with life, life will start chipping off certain parts of us that aren't needed, right? So parts that aren't necessary for whatever reason, life will just chip away from us. If we have resistance to this chipping, if we start mourning the loss of these parts of us that are being taken away, if we're not able to understand that that we're being molded for something greater, it can be very, very painful. But if we understand the end result, so Swamiji said the whole point of us being like rolling along and being molded in this river Ganga is so that at the end of it, we will land as a beautiful Shiva Linga. That beautiful Shiva Linga, so that boulder which has been moved along the flow of life, the end result is it will be this beautiful Shiva Linga sitting in the Ganga, ready to be worshipped. So if we understand the end result, the whole point of life moving us, the whole point of life sculpting us, of taking away what's unnecessary, of raising us to our authenticity, to being all that we have the capacity to be, is so that we can understand our real divinity, so that we can understand that we are not just what we think we are in fact so much more. Allowing that process to happen rather than resisting it, knowing that it only wants the best for us, it only wants us to be this beautiful Shiva Linga. Having that right understanding will make every situation in life, see, whether it is showing us in the sweetest, most compassionate way, or in the most jarring way, telling us, wake up, enough is enough, get up, move to the next level, come on, this is no longer serving you, get up. Whether it's a compassionate, sweet little wake up nudge, or a rude wake up alarm, whatever it is that life is giving us, if we can understand the context behind it, then suffering will virtually become redundant. Everything we can see is auspicious, it's beautiful, it's life trying to show us that, hey, raise yourself. So I'm not saying that, I'm saying in this particular situation with my friend, rather than being powerless, being powerful instead, and seeing what it is that life was trying to show her was ultimately the way out of this situation, is absolutely the way to go. But see, whatever she's feeling, not to ignore it, not to suppress it, just see it and recognize it for what it is. But and see, what I'm saying also is not that if someone is outrightly abusing us in some way, that we shouldn't stand up for ourselves or defend ourselves or anything like that. It's just understanding the messages in life for what they are, not misperceiving them, and not missing the sweetness of that message, as rough as it may seem, not missing the sweetness in that as well. So I'll share with you all the link for this video where Swamiji talks about being sculpted from death to divine. I hope you do watch it. I've watched it maybe, I think, minimum 10 times. It's every time I've watched it, it's just shed so much light for me and given me tremendous courage and lightness every time I've watched it. And it's so funny that I've forgotten it, and then this beautiful message has come up as a reminder for me. So I would love to hear your comments. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them for me, and I'll endeavor to get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you so much for watching. Nikanandam.